Five Nights at Freddy's has some of the most intricate, confusing, yet deeply interesting lore the world has ever seen. Or so I'm told. I've never played the games. Welcome to our newest series, Explaining Blank, but I've never consumed the media. We're starting off with one of the internet's darlings today, Five Nights at Freddy's. And even if you've never played the game, if you've spent any time online, through osmosis, you must have gathered some FNAF information. So I went through my mind palace, grabbing all these pieces of information that I've learned throughout the years, and I've pieced them together in a digestible way. I've outlined some points that I think have happened, but maybe I'll remember something as we go through this or come to a realization, so just remember everything here is subject to change. And without further ado, here is the Five Nights at Freddy's full timeline. But before we begin, first let me tell you a little bit about me. Why should you listen to me when explaining the FNAF lore? First of all, I'm a Stanford graduate, so everything I say must be true. And you must be thinking, Luca, you're too charming and attractive to be a Stanford graduate. I know. Next up, actually have seen the 2023 hit film Five Nights at Freddy's, so I'm not going in completely blind. And importantly, I'm also a god gamer, so I know how games function. I understand games from a meta sense. Here's a list of accomplishments if you want to pause the videos to take a look at them. Also, before we begin, here's what I know about Five Nights at Freddy's. I know about Freddy Fazbear. I know about Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy. I know about Marionette. I know about some of the animatronics. That's not news to me. I know about the Bite of 87. How Ronald Reagan is actually part of this, I'm not entirely sure. I know about William Afton, and I know that he is Springtrap, and I know that there is greater than or equal to 4 games. Can't wait to meet you, do-do-do-do-do. So join the family, we open real soon. Chomp! Try your best to hold on to sanity. Five Nights at Freddy's got me going crazy. Thank you. And with all that out of the way, we can hop into the 1970s. These wretched years where the lore begins. Two friends, John F. Fazbear and William Afton, have a great idea. They want to create the Chuck E. Cheeses of the Freddy Fazbear's universe. Afty is a little depresso mode for a reason that we're about to see, and John F. Fazbear is the business mogul. He is the brains behind the marketing of the operation, whereas Afton is the real brains. It's like a Steve Wozniak, Steve Jobs. Wow, they have the same name? I just realized. So yeah, they have a Wozniak-Jobs relationship, and I'm pretty sure John's name is Fazbear because I can't see a reason for someone to be so obsessed with bears to model their entire children's franchise after bears over and over and over again. Regardless, Afton is in charge of making the animatronics. He's the Wozniak. This is probably the most critical part of Five Nights at Freddy's. However, he also has a dead son/daughter, and that's why he puts all of his heart and soul into the creation of these animatronics. So they open this spot. It's a great idea. A lot of kids are really into it because of the cute animatronics that William Afton is making. Anyway, Loki, some kids go missing in Freddy Fazbear's. I know Freddy. It's really sad. So Fred's actually closes down in the 70s due to an OSHA compliance and also the missing children. However, I'm pretty sure that they reopened sometimes in the late 70s. How many kids really went missing to begin with? I would guess around 2 or 3. So here's how I see it. The original Freddy's opens up in like the mid-70s, late 70s by 30 to 40-year-old men, because that's the demographic of who thinks of children's fun houses. And then it closes down for about a year due to the missing children and the OSHA compliance, but it opens up really quickly because they're making a lot of money. A lot of people want to send their kids there, and the kids love it. So we step into the 1980s after it's already been reopened. Business is booming, but the children keep going missing. So people start connecting the dots. Why is there such a high likelihood of my child going missing compared to literally anywhere else? And maybe people that are actually working at Five Nights at Freddy's are also connecting the dots, because then John notices William's descent into madness. For instance, why is he holding a purple banana? I actually think that it's due to drugs and acid and cocaine in particular, because it's the 1980s at this point, but mostly because of his child. Will then ends up upgrading his animatronics so that they can be used as suits, but they don't have to be. This is important. They can be both remote controlled and put on. Now, if you've been paying any attention online, you'd know why this is important. It's because it is the perfect cover for William. William has been the killer the whole time! He thought to himself, you know what the perfect guise is for abducting and killing children? Being the co-founder of a children's playden. No one will suspect me. And no one suspects him yet. Until 1987 rolls around, it's John's kid's birthday party. Jeremiah, the kid's name, gets too close to Freddy, William's favorite animatronic so far, and Freddy Fazbear bites the kid's head off. Literally. I think it's clean off, or it's like half off. I know that there's brain damage. Now you might be thinking, what does William Afton think? Well, he has an inner monologue. He thinks, that's strange. I wasn't actually in the suit for the murder of the child. Maybe there's some paranormal things going on. Unfortunately, we can't let this slide, and Freddy's closes down once more. I know, Freddy Fazbear, it's not your fault. And then investigations lead to the firing and arrest of Afton, because like any good CEO, John doesn't care about what happens to people around him until it happens to himself. So after his kid dies, he's like, wait a minute. William Afton has been talking about killing children this entire time. No, it couldn't be. And it actually was. And then we step into the 1990s, when we think that William Afton is out of the picture, but he's not yet. So quick recap. 2 friends make Freddy Fazbear's. It closes down once due to some missing kids, reopens, business is booming, and then it closes down again after we found out that one of the co-founders has been killing children. Then in the 1990s, John sells his company. He hates his life. You know, his eldest son just died, and he lost his best friend. And Freddy reopens under a new name. Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. What was it called before that? I don't know. Anyway, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza reuses the animatronics from the 70s and 80s, because the 90s, we still haven't really developed cool tech yet, so it's best to just save money. Honestly, Bonnie, that's my face as well. I don't see why they would reuse these animatronics that are clearly fucking linked to the murders of children, but I'm pretty sure that's what they do. And then Five Nights at Freddy's starts here. It takes place in the 90s. Guaranteed. So Freddy's reopened under a new name, it has new ownership, and this owner is not an idiot. He's like, okay, I need to hire a new security guard to make people feel safer, at least at night. So Josh Hutcherson is the new security guard. I actually don't know his name in canon. He then starts working there, and he sees Chica moving around by herself. She's kind of sexy. He starts falling for her, and he gets to thinking, wait, these animatronics have a mind of their own. But then he also realizes that they don't actually harm him. Think about that for a sec. But as Josh is working there and he gets instructions from whoever hired him, telling him to like, look at the camera here, pick up the phone right now, don't worry, Chica's not gonna kill you, she's just sexy. He starts thinking to himself, why does the guy who hired me know so much about the job? And then at some point during the job, he finds a newspaper article about Afton, and then he thinks to himself, Afton hired me. He's the guy who bought Five Nights at Freddy's reopened, actually. So Josh, on the 5th night at Freddy's, realizes that William Afton is not in jail, and that he is actually the owner of the restaurant, perhaps under a different name? Or did he escape the cops? It doesn't really matter. Regardless, he knows that Afton forgot to hide Springtrap because he finds it somehow. And he thinks, holy shit, Afton has definitely been killing kids. In fact, he's probably still doing it. So Josh calls the cops, but Afton is already gone. Again, they don't get him. Sheesh, he's good. But it's still the 5th night, so Josh has some time before he quits his job. He realizes that the animatronics came to life to protect children because they are the children that William Afton started killing in the 70s and the 80s. And that's our Chica, Bonnie, Foxy, and perhaps Freddy? But why then the bite of 87? Why did Freddy kill the kid? Well, it's because it was a salty child with Afton genes. That's right. I think that William Afton's dead child, before the lore even started, possessed Freddy, and then ended up killing one of John's children out of envy. That makes sense to me, man. You know, as I'm doing this video, maybe I didn't get as much Five Nights at Freddy's information through osmosis as I thought. But I still think I'm onto something. Plus, this lore is so convoluted that I feel like any 5th thing that I said, I might be just bullseyeing. Anyway, Josh befriends Freddy, who we established is Afton Jr. It doesn't really matter whether it's a son or a daughter. I'm gonna actually go ahead and say it's a son. So Josh talks to Freddy, why the bite of 87? Why did you kill John's kid? Envy, jealousy, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of character growth for the kid here, and Freddy becomes a good guy. This is where Five Nights at Freddy's 2 begins. Meanwhile, multiple sister locations are opened. Now you might be asking a question. Why? Why are they opening multiple sister locations when so many children are going missing constantly and are still going missing? It's very obvious. Money. Anyway, continuing with the 1990s, Josh quits his new job. You know, he said, I don't really fuck with this paranormal shit. I don't fuck with ghosts. I spent 5 days here, give me the check, and I'm out. So he's out, we get a new security guard, but this is still kind of problematic because Afton is still on the loose and he continues killing children. However, he has a new goal, and that is to kill John's daughter, Sandra. Now, Sandra's an interesting character too, because she never actually met Jeremiah. She was alive while he was alive, but she doesn't remember him. She was too young. And John had a wife at the time, and they had these 2 children, but they divorced after the death of Jeremiah, and he remarries, and now Sandra has a stepmother. Now, this stepmother forces Sandra and John to have Sandra's birthday at Freddy's. Because this is the only way that I could think of that these 2 people would go back to this shitty-ass franchise where children are constantly dying. The wife was on the wave of like, John, you're constantly depressed that your child died. You need to get over it. The only way to get over it is to send your other child to have the birthday party similar. It's exposure therapy. And John, after hitting the bottle again, was like, fine. I'll do it. And you know, maybe while John is driving to Freddy's, he's like, Sandra, are you sure you want to do this? Are you sure you want to go back to Freddy's for your birthday? And Sandra's like, well, in honor of my late brother, I simply have to. And as soon as they get there, William Afton kills Sandra. I mean, what were we expecting, dude? Why would they go back to this haunted-ass franchise? It's kind of John's fault. Why would he agree with this? He spirals. He's not even part of the lore anymore. However, Springtrap malfunctions as well, killing William Afton too. Now, what happens from here? Sandra inhabits Marionette. This is a character I know. I know a lot about the internet. And William's spirit remains alive in Springtrap, which makes William Afton have a realization. Maybe killing is bad. Nah, but clearly people have souls. I think I'll revive my dead kid now, which sets him on a vile path. So we step into the 2000s with William Afton inhabiting Springtrap and having this new goal of reviving his dead child, which died probably in the 70s or 60s. William Afton is actually pretty old at this point, now that I'm thinking about it. Like, the dude must be 70, but no, he's dead. He's dead and in Springtrap. Okay, that makes sense. Anyway, Freddy's locations are now fully shut down. It kind of makes sense, because John went back there. He was the founder of the original Freddy Fazbear's. His daughter died probably right before his eyes, or got taken right before his eyes. But kids in the area are still going missing. You know, maybe teenagers, elementary school kids, middle school kids go like, oh look, Freddy's is haunted. Why don't we go check out this abandoned place? Springtrap is still in there, doofuses. Josh, however, re-enters the story as he learns about this and wants to fix this. Remember, he was the security guard from Five Nights at Freddy's 1. So what does he do? He obviously goes to the abandoned Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria. And then he spends some time there. You know, 5 nights in particular. I don't really understand how this would work though. Like, would he just go into the abandoned place and sleep there? Would he not go back home? Or would he go back home during the day? Because they're only really alive at night. Anyway, Marionette's around, Springtrap's around, and then the entire crew of Freddy Fazbear even from earlier. However, Afton's spirit is still hoarding the other children's souls because he's trying to revive his dead child, and Josh would die in this game, perhaps 3 or 4, if it wasn't for Golden Freddy. Golden Freddy's a really critically important character that hasn't yet been mentioned, but I think even in FNAF 1 and FNAF 2, he may have had some secret Easter egg encounters, because I believe that Golden Freddy is Jeremiah, the savior of the timeline, and also the kid who is the victim of the bite of 87. Josh then finds out that Springtrap is still at large. It's not like some random serial killer that's pretending to be William Afton. No, he sees Springtrap on the cameras or something. I don't really know what he's doing. Anyway, he burns the whole place down and dies in order for Springtrap to go down with him. What about all the other animatronics? I think that they die as well. It's like the kids are, you know, they become martyrs. They have to. It's time to put Five Nights at Freddy's away. It's the 2000s already. This has been going on for 30 years. But in the meantime, between some of the games, Josh has found himself a sexy, smoking hot wife, which he's had multiple children with. And one of the children has nightmares about Freddy, and Foxy and Chica and Bonnie, which beg the question, why is this paranormal shit still going on? Like, actually, why? And then we get to the 2020s, where Freddy's has already long been out of commission. I mean, it's been 50 years since the start of the initial Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria, and then there's a Facebook security breach, and Freddy Fazbear, the golden version, is the hacker. Jeremiah grew up, and he wanted to be a programmer this entire time. Marionette is also involved somehow. What the fuck is security breach even supposed to be? It happens like way in the future. Is it actually just a video game? At this point, I think I've already lost the plot about the timeline. How do they just keep including these games? And how does the lore just keep getting more and more convoluted and advanced? It feels very retconny to me. So yeah, this is kind of the end of my outline because I don't really know what security breach is even supposed to be about. Because obviously it happens and it's like a video game or like a website or something, right? But if you think about it, the animatronics, they're all like analog. They were never connected to the internet, so how the fuck did they weasel their way into cyberspace? It makes no sense to me. But I hope that you enjoyed this recap of Five Nights at Freddy's. I think we can now move on to the frequently asked questions because there are a lot. I think a pretty natural question to ask, and one I have myself, is if the animatronics don't actually harm the security guard, how could you even lose in the first game? And the answer to that question is... So the next question then is, why was Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria opened over and over and over again if it had so many scandals, and particularly involving the death of children? The answer is pretty simple. It's American parents prefer doing anything but taking care of their children. The next question that makes sense to me is, how did Afton actually plan on reviving his child? And I think that the answer is, since he knew that human souls were legit, he planned on using them as an offering and built a new animatronic for his dead child's soul to inhabit. But what I think he didn't know is that Freddy was the soul of his child. And Freddy probably hated Afton, right? Also, I'm pretty sure that there's some metal in Five Nights at Freddy's that Afton was like looking for and using to build the animatronics because it could keep the souls better or some shit. One of the most common FNAF questions I see is, why did William Afton have a British accent? And this one's pretty obvious. The game needed a quick way to show that he was evil. How many children did William Afton kill? I'd say at least 6, 7, probably more. I feel like you could name 15 animatronics. And I feel like at least 12 of them are children that Afton killed. Probably some others came from some other bullshit that we didn't cover in this timeline because it's just not that important. Then of course we have the obvious question of, why do animatronics only come alive at night? That's actually a really good question. Brother, how was Afton not caught multiple times? And then I started thinking, well, the answer is actually pretty obvious. All he did was kill children in the 70s and 80s. And it's not that high priority for the government, even now. Question for Luca, what about the neurotoxin? I actually have no idea how that comes into play. I know that there is a neurotoxin somewhere in the lore of Five Nights at Freddy's. Is it entering the bloodstream of William Afton when he is in Springtrap, potentially? Does he like use the neurotoxin when he abducts the kids to remove the soul and then kill them? I'm not entirely sure. I really tried to squeeze it into the lore somewhere, but neurotoxin just does not seem Five Nights at Freddy's to me. At one point I just wanted to say John became an alcoholic, so there's your neurotoxin, but that didn't make enough sense. I think actually that the neurotoxin even has something to do with the rest of William Afton's family. Pretty sure he had a family, but they're not critically important to the lore of Five Nights at Freddy's, right? And with that, Five Nights at Freddy's has been explained. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing. Well, there's the first episode of Explaining Blank, but I've never consumed the media. I think that it might be interesting to have a separate series where we take things that I have failed to explain and then we do a deep dive. We can like watch game theory or read the Wikipedia to actually learn about what I just explained and see how right or wrong I was. So if you want to see anything like that, let me know in the comments down below. And if you have any suggestions for future Games to Play series to cover real world things to do, community discussions, IRL, vlog, content, anything, drop those in the comments down below as well, because everything I do for you. And go check out other videos on the channel. We have a whole library of variety content. Something for everyone. Stuff like this, stuff that's different to the stuff that's different to the stuff that's different. I'm trying to make YouTube as fun as possible again. It lost the joie de vivre for me. You know? Build a nicheless community, genuine creatorship, not always being a moron, but often being a moron. Pretty entertaining guy, I'd say. Until next time, Freddy, I love you. And goodbye. Time to go kill some children. Whoops, I should cut that out, but I won't.